Buying a franchise offers a tempting shortcut to owning your own business. You get proven systems, marketing, and a roadmap to follow. But having success is not guaranteed. It all comes down to your ability to execute the playbook. Most failures trace back to a few avoidable mistakes. Today, I'm going to talk about how not to start a franchise and the 4 biggest mistakes that new franchisees make, and of course, how to avoid them. Mistake number 1 is hiring and keeping the wrong people. Hiring is like shuffling a deck of cards, right? Before we find an ace or king or queen, we have to get past a bunch of 2s and 3s and 4s and 8s, etc. And so the only way to speed up the process is a couple things. Number 1 is to fire those low numbers fast. So as soon as you know you've got like a 2 or 3 or 4 and you're looking for a king, queen, ace, they're not going to turn into that person. So you gotta unload. And sometimes that's easier said than done. What if one of those 5 out of 10s that you hired was a friend of yours? What if they were trying their best, but like they just aren't cut out for this role? Bringing on your friends as employees or people you know may seem like a safer choice initially. You're starting this business from scratch. You don't know like who to trust. And hey, somebody you trust them, like they seem like a good guy or girl. But often this backfires because, now your relationship is getting in the way of making the business decision that's costing you money. It's hurting the company. It's hurting the customer's expectations, right? If someone's underperforming and they're just not a fit. And firing underperformers is hard, but holding on to them is even more damaging. And so if you have a weak leadership team, especially the person at the top who's really running a lot of that is a death sentence for a franchise. To avoid this mistake, there's really 3 things that you need to do. Number 1, hire slow and fire fast. If you ever have heard this saying before, what it means is that you don't want to just hire somebody right away, right? There needs to be this process they have to go through. People can kind of uphold a certain facade for a certain amount of time, but if you make them go through the ringer, eventually their true colors show. And if they're willing to kind of go through the steps, it shows that they want the job, and it shows that they're probably the right fit versus, hey, can you fog this mirror and you're onboarded, which I've done in the past and it's never worked out. So hire slow and fire fast means once you know somebody's not right, like stop wasting your time, your money, your resources, and move on. And this is common advice, but that's what it means, and implementing it is critical. Number 2 is to realize that C players and D players, right? They're never going to become A players. And it's much easier to replace them, to find somebody who's already an A player, maybe in a similar industry, and you're just a matter of getting them on your team and showing them your process. That is easier and quicker and honestly, like just a way better plan than trying to take somebody and make them into an A player. It's like, do you want to hire somebody who doesn't know how to ride a bike and you are willing to like put on the training wheels and let them fall down and like scrape their knees and like make all these mistakes and put themselves in danger and other people? Or like, do you just want to hire somebody who already knows how to ride a bike and like, we're not the training wheels, right? I have this problem where, I see the best in everybody and I know they've got the potential, but it's like, how long am I going to wait for them to realize that potential versus somebody who I like just as much, but can pick it up way quicker because they've done it before. They're an A player. Maybe they've just been underutilized and now, boom, they accelerate. That's a really big one and a really tough thing. And be honest, like the only way you're going to get better at it is by doing it, is hiring more people and realizing they're not good. Try to identify like, what did I miss that first call that I should have realized, and then fix it for the next time, right? It's constant iteration. When you're in a franchise, you are in the people business that just happens to fix cars, paint houses, take care of seniors, like whatever it is, flip burgers, but you're in the people business. And so the better that you can get at hiring people and promoting them and making them feel great and like all those things, realizing their full potential, the better business you will build. Identifying though when you don't have the right person and moving on is a critical step that even I sometimes suffer today with it. If you're a first-time business owner, like I undoubtedly know that you're going to struggle with it too, and just realize that like you just got to take action on it. And number 3 is to separate the decision from the relationship as much as you can. So like you bring on this friend or somebody you know, and like firing them doesn't mean you don't like them, but like you're setting them to be free to pursue something that will fit them better in the long run. Like people want to succeed, right? People want to do well. If someone's not doing well in a role, like they feel the pressure and they feel like they could be feeling that they are letting you down, but they don't want to say it because they don't want to leave you in a worse situation. So in their mind, they may want to get out, and you could be relieving a huge amount of pressure and weight off their shoulders by letting them transition to something where they will shine. Keep in mind, if you do a good job communicating expectations, results, where we're at, where we're going to need to improve, and you're very clear with it, and it will be an easier transaction to do and a conversation to have versus like you never talk to them about it and you're just one day, boom, blindsided. Like that's where you really could damage the relationship. But I think if upfront, you're transparent, you set the expectation, this is where we're at, this is where we need to see you improve, like we're all in the same boat here, and this is why, then that's a much easier kind of conversation because the writing's on the walls, right? That would be my top advice there. Mistake number 2 is being undercapitalized. So having capital, money, right? And a 6 to 12 month runway from making mistakes and all this stuff when you're starting from scratch is a much easier approach. If you don't have this runway and you're really tight on cash, and maybe you maxed out loans and you're just like, you're super thin there, like that is going to lead to a couple issues. Number one, you're going to feel constantly under pressure, right? You're going to have this debt, you're going to have these payments, like, the business isn't growing as fast as you thought. And so like, it's going to apply constant pressure, which, is not going to be very fun. And then if something goes wrong, something breaks, you lose somebody, like, I don't know, a bunch of leads don't get handled right, whatever it is, like you are gonna like feel it. You're gonna apply all this pressure to your team, and now everyone's all like tighten up, and like people tighten up, they get in these ruts, and then they can't perform. And so you really want to stay relaxed as much as you can, right? Having a runway, having a longer time frame, I'm going to talk about, help. And you also like don't want to be forced into making these like short-term investments because of like a cash crunch that hurt you in the long run. If you're going to buy a business, whether it's a franchise or anything else, like you want to make sure you have a very strong runway of cash that you can have flexibility with. And the worst thing you can do is be super, super tight, and then you crash and you can't get through those tougher times, through the winters. Like owning a business it's a season, right? You have your summer where everything's going great and like, you're just printing money, and then you get into the fall where, man, it's starting to get a little colder, it's starting to get a little tougher. Then you get into the winter where, man, it is tough. It is a frigid day. The leads has stopped. It's a grind. Like things just like aren't working. And then you go through that, and then there's springtime, right? Now you're starting to see some buds. You're starting to see, hey man, some of those things we were doing like a couple months ago, like are starting to show, right? We're starting to groove in. This big deal I've been working on, finally got back to me. And then boom, like summer, printing money again. And then like it goes through a cycle. Every business goes through this. Some, it's actually seasonal. Like it is literally the season. Other ones, it's like these cycles that these businesses go through. You may start a business planning for it to be summer, but you may launch that business in fall or winter, and it may just be super hard. But having that cash, being like, have a good cushion that, hey, I am going to work through this and we are going to get it up to those good times is, critical to believe and critical to execute on. The thing is though, like sometimes, a business takes off quickly, and other times like it takes way longer than you plan or expect, and nobody has a crystal ball. So like budget in more money than you think you need. And it's better to like have the money and not need it than to need it and not have it. And if you don't have that margin of safety, honestly, just wait. Like just wait until you have it, or look at a franchise that's a lower cost or a business that's a lower cost. Maybe you don't have that big lease. You don't have this big debt. Like your same amount of money can get you much further if you're looking at something that's more conservative. At least that's what I would do. So mistake number 3 is unrealistic expectations. Franchising is not a get rich quick scheme. And even though you're following this proven business plan, you're building a business from scratch. And the unrealistic expectations that people have go 2 ways. Number one, they think that building the franchise business is easier than it is. But in reality, like getting from 0 to 1 still requires a ton of effort. And nothing can prepare you for starting your first business than to actually go out and do it. You go from an employee where your company, they're the ones worried about payroll every week. They're the ones that have to make sure the debt gets paid and all this stuff. But like once you own the business, like that weight is on you. Like you're responsible for payroll. You're responsible for, all the families of the teams that you employ. Like you're responsible for everything. I think people misinterpret interpret this and they think that, oh, buying a franchise is like, I'm a corporate employee, if it's not working, like I'm just going to shift all the blame to the franchisor. But like, it's your business. Like they give you the playbook. It's your job to go out and get it. Nothing can prepare you except to do it. You can read all the books in the world. All that kind of gets thrown out when you're in the weeds and when you're in the thick of it. And when you've got that employee who you thought you trusted just stole from you. And then you've got this like sexual harassment thing. And then you've got like insurance. And then you've got like this and that and like all the stuff that comes on you. And it's a ton. Like, I'm not going to lie and tell you it's easy, because it's not easy. However, like millions of people do it. And like, it's a matter of having grit and resiliency and just like building through the shit that you got to do. And once you go through a bunch of shit, then like when new things come at you, it's no big deal. But just like 0 to 1 still requires a ton of effort. A franchise makes it easier by like packaging up and giving all these things, but you still need to go out and execute. That'd be my first thing. Number 2 here is overestimating the potential earnings of the franchise. When you build these things, it's easy to say, hey, this thing's going to go up and to the right. But in reality, like it's much more of a roller coaster. And few franchises are profitable from day one. And many lose money for months, right? Like you were starting the business, you were pouring money into advertising, you were hiring people. Those people, like many of them have training wheels for the business and like learning it and all this stuff and like how to overcome objections. Maybe you don't have like financing options in place yet. Maybe you're way overpaying for stuff because like you just don't know. As you get it up, then things start to click, right? Now after 3 months in, like things are starting to click. You're seeing some of that light, right? It's feeling like winter and then it's feeling better. Just keep that in mind, right? It is going to be harder than whatever you think. That's how you create value. That's how entrepreneurs can make a lot of money and franchise owners can make a lot of money, is that they're willing to go through it and they keep being resilient. And the other part of this is time solves a lot of problems. And there is this balance. It's a balance that I struggle with all the time between driving success, just like driving results, and then having patience that like, listen, like we know it's a problem. We've hired the people, like we're getting them trained. Like this is something my team tells me all the time. It's like, I just need to calm down a little bit. And I think it's good to have this drive, like as the owner, you need to drive it forward, because if you can't drive it, like who else is going to do it? But it's also, having the bigger picture and having some patience and trusting the process that, hey, listen, we have taken the action, we've done the things take time, and like you'll start to see some results shortly. And honestly, when then you start to see results, now you're like, all right, the process worked. You can trust the process for the next time on the next thing you have to focus on. That is key, is having a good balance, and you have to find out for you, like, what does that feel like? But the biggest mistake of all that I see people make is they don't follow the franchise model. The biggest benefit of franchising is that like they're going to give you the plan. Like, here it is. This is what's worked for us for 20 years. You need to go out and get 2 estimates a day, or you need to like answer every phone and do an inspection on every vehicle and like do this thing. And if you can do those things, like it'll all work out. And so they give you the systems to apply. They give you the KPIs, like the key performance indicators that you need to hit, whether that's 2 estimates a day, or we need to do, X amount of like vehicle inspections or like whatever it is. And then the franchisor has support, right? Like they have online training, they have in-person training, you have a support system of the franchisees, like it's all there for you. But many franchisees fail because they just don't follow the process. If they don't follow the process, they're not making money, they're not happy. They then blame the brand and saying, well, this thing sucks, like this doesn't work, this is a scam, like whatever it is. But the reality is like there's franchisees all over the country who are having success. It's them not willing to do the work that's necessary, whether that's call so many people, go out and knock on doors, spend the money on the marketing, like hire better people, like whatever it is, right? There is something that you're not doing that you need to do to fix it. And I think a lot of this comes down to taking responsibility, taking accountability to move forward with it, right? And that is, one of my biggest complaints just in general, talking to other business owners. It's like people want to play the victim way too often. I think part of that's like a society thing right now where like it's everybody's fault and like everything's so offensive, and that leads to people believing like they're the victim and like I'm not successful because the leads suck, or I'm not successful because their system's not good enough, or this or that. And they have all these reasons, but like the true reason is like they're not doing enough stuff and that they need to get focused, and like you need to turn it internal. And that's how you go and build a company. You think like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any of the big guys or Warren Buffett or anybody is shifting the blame to all these people? No, like they they see the problem, they know what the problem is, and then they think, okay, what can I do to solve this? In this situation, what can I control? And then what actions can I take to make it happen? They have the playbook, and then they're acting on it. Don't try to like get cute with the system until you're like crushing it. The other thing I see new franchisees do is that they'll say, oh, well, like this thing you have doesn't work. I want to do it this way. And we're like a month in here. Or like, we're a couple months in. It's like, well, you're not even like doing it right. And now you're going to tell me like what you do is better and you haven't even like done the thing. Keep it simple. Just follow the process. Like it'll work. If there's some tweaks you can make, great. If they work, like franchisors love taking those ideas and spreading them across the system. And so it's not that the ideas don't matter. It's that like there's a time and a place. And when you're new, like that's not the time or the place. Like don't try to go and reinvent the wheel. Like keep it simple, follow the process, and you will have the playbook to win. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to make it spin. And that means just like hit the numbers that the franchisor gives you, that your friends and other people are hitting you. And if you're not hitting them, like you got to dig in to figure out why. And if you can follow this, like it makes everything easier. To sum it up, here is how not to start a franchise. Step number 1, hire a bunch of C and D players and make sure you keep them around forever. Step 2 is bring the minimum amount of capital required and spend it luxuriously on, an office furniture and a trip and maybe a brand new truck and all this stuff. Step number 3 is to expect to earn millions of dollars the very first month that you open, and otherwise like totally not worth your time. And step number 4 is don't follow anything that the franchisor tells you. In fact, just do the opposite. If you can follow this guide, you will fail, you will lose a bunch of money, and you will not be very happy. I can guarantee it. That's all I got for today here. These mistakes, they're totally avoidable if you know what you're doing. My team has built a company that'll do over $45 million in revenue this year. Like we are going to continue to grow in multiple ways through opening up new franchise locations, by buying existing franchisees that are in our market, by partnering with other great operators around the country to help them execute this plan. Like we are growing in multiple ways, but it's all the same playbook. It's all the things that I just went over. Like we are going to run that playbook we've ran it at 10 million, 20 million, 40 million, and I'm going to be running it to 100 million and higher. And so if you want our help finding a franchise that's good for you, like one that fits like your goals, your skills, your budget, like makes sense with your location, all that stuff, you can go to brianbeers.com/coaching and sign up. I've got this free coaching course. There's like live weekly calls that I host. You can work with one of my guys. We can help you find brands. It's all totally free. I believe that anything is possible, with the right mindset, with the right game plan. I live it every day. I have friends that live it, but a lot of people can't do it because they can't follow the process. They hire bad people and they make a ton of these mistakes. So don't be that person. And if there's anything I can do to help you, please reach out. Cheers.